Woohoo! The real ones. All right, guys, we'll get kicked off with this meeting, and I'll open us up in a word of prayer before I dive into all the info. Gracious and Heavenly Father, we come before you today, Lord, just members here and attenders from Jacob's Well, and just here at this meeting to discuss the high school RYM trip and the Jacob's Well mission trip, Lord. So we just bless our time today. We give you thanks for all the blessings you've given us with worship and mission trips and serving and just growing in you, God. So we lift this time before you in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, guys, I know all of you. My name is Jack Reimer. I'm doing a little video recording too, just in case I can get this out on our social media. But yeah, today's meeting is to discuss the high school RYM trip, or a high school RYM conference, and the Jacob's Well mission trip. So we may be here for one or the other or both. So we'll just kind of go through all the info we got on both of them. So if you guys have questions, just feel free to ask as we go along too. I'll just have a portion of time at the end of each section to just open it up for any other questions you might have. So we'll start off with the high school RYM trip. So what is RYM? And I have photos from this last year's trip, so you may see students from Jacob's Well, so that'll be fun. But RYM, it stands for Reformed Youth Ministries. So it is this, some people call it a parachurch ministry. So it's not directly connected to a church body, but it more so serves as a support for the church. So there's no direct oversight from a particular church, but they kind of gather from a bunch of different churches. So they have outstanding stuff, and I'll keep talking about what RYM is. So it started back in 1972. So our denomination, the PCA, it was around the same time the PCA actually broke off from the PCUSA. You guys didn't know you were getting a history lesson today, but you are. And so with RYM, it's not directly affiliated with the PCA, but we have a ton of connections to RYM from the PCA. So all the people on staff with RYM, I think it's about 10 to 15 folks. They're all either ordained in the PCA or attend PCA churches. And I can't remember the statistic, but it's somewhere around 70% of people who attend RYM conferences are from the PCA. So it's not directly you have to be, this is a PCA thing. They're really trying to broaden things and make it open to everybody and accessible to everybody. But just so happens a lot of PCA folks, they have loved this ministry and have really latched on to it. So, and then for what are all the things RYM does, Reformed Youth Ministries? So they do a ton of things. They have youth leader trainings, such as for me and other volunteer youth leaders in the country. It's a weekend conference for adults who lead youth ministries. So I hope to attend some of their conferences in the future. I haven't been able to yet. But they have podcasts, they have music, they have Bible studies. The middle school group here at Jacob's Well, we're currently going through a middle school, actually just ended, but we were going through an RYM Bible study, which was great. But they just have tons of resources, both for adults, for youth, for everybody. So a lot of good stuff comes from RYM. So up here is a video for this past summer. It's kind of the recap video. It'll show a little bit of what goes on at RYM. Keep your eyes peeled for anybody you might recognize. So yeah, a lot of fun happens at these conferences, but the word conference, I think, just needs to be like broken down a little bit of what a conference is. So a conference, like, a lot of times it's used for like adults and like kind of like boring work stuff. But conferences are just a dedicated time for a certain subject. So last year, it was Grace Alone was like the big subject of the RYN conference week. This year, maybe I have it on the next page. Maybe it's the next one. It's God with us, so we'll get back to that in just a sec. So yeah, it's this. There's gonna be large group sessions like you would have at like a Lake Lundgren weekend. But something else really cool about it is these like they're like small breakout sessions. So they're like not like small groups. Like there are that kind of stuff, but there are also like these like different like panels you can go to that has like even like kind of like deeper topics. So last year there was like conversations like around like teens and technology or something like that. And then there's just a few different varieties of classes you can choose from. So there's a lot that goes on. So these are some of the things that happen at the RYM Mid-Atlantic Conference, which is the one we're going to. So there's right on the Chesapeake Bay, which is on the Atlantic Ocean pretty much. There is this ginormous zip line that like literally like starts like 100 feet up in the air and runs directly into the bay, which is really cool. There's tubing on boats, so like and they're like actual like speedboats. It's pretty wild. I've never been to a camp that has that. There's ropes course, giant swing. There's tournaments. You saw some guys like Ben and Corbin out there playing. There was like ultimate frisbee tournaments, soccer tournaments. The large group sessions are really awesome too. Night games and just great food too. So a lot goes on at the conference within the 5 days, and just a really intense amount of growing in a short period. So here's just some other info regarding the Oasis trip to RYM this summer. It'll be happening on July 26th, going to August 1st. So the conference itself, it's going to start on Sunday the 27th and end on Thursday the 31st. But taking a day before and after is to kind of accommodate travel and all that kind of stuff. And the conference itself is happening in Northeast Maryland at this camp called North Bay Adventure Camp. It's a secular camp, but the RYM group, they rent out the camp for that week and make their thing happen there. So for travel, we're planning on either taking multiple vans or a bus. I'm still working out the details, but I'm hoping we get a large amount of students going. And then the hope is there is another PCA church outside of Chicago that I'm friends with their youth pastor there. He takes a group of his students to go out there. On the last slide, or 2 slides ago, I'll play it again. But yeah, like these guys right here, they're from right outside Chicago, so we're able to kind of like group up, make like a mega large group, and it's just really fun to get to know new people. So we stay at sister churches right outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and on the way back traveling, we stop in Hudson, Ohio. We just stop at the church for the night and sleep at the church. We'll bring sleeping bags and not cots, but inflatable mattresses, that kind of thing. So it's kind of low key, but so the keynote speaker for this year is this guy Elliot Cherry. He's from Nashville, Tennessee. Once again, he is a pastor in the PCA, and I haven't listened to any of his stuff yet, but just knowing where the pastor is coming from, knowing that he had to have the same kind of ordination stuff as our pastors here at Jacob's Wall, I think it's just really reassuring. So excited to see what he has. Hopefully we have 16 students coming, two male leaders, including myself, 2 female leaders. So yeah, there's about 12 spots for students left. I actually haven't checked the registrations in a few days, so I don't know where it's at right now. That was my last guess. And then cost right now is $700. The $525 of that is going to the conference itself. So lodging, food, all that kind of stuff. It's about up $25 from last year, which is reasonable. And so the remainder of that is for travel. So the hope is that I would like to see this get down to just that 525. So the hope is that we can fundraise as a large group the remainder amount to cover that cost. And so what we did last year was the Brock Barns at like festival foods and stuff. And we actually brought in a really good amount of money, and we were able to drop down the cost of the trip to just the conference cost. So we're able to raise enough funds to travel our traveling, or to cover our traveling. So yeah. Other info, signups will go through March 9th, so just a little over a month from now. The reason why I have it like March 9th compared to like we'll be going to this trip in July is we want to start we want to have our solidified number of who's all going on the trip, and start doing like group events, start planning out like what we're going to do on the trip and how we're going to fundraise and stuff like that. And once we get our final number, we'll start doing group fundraisers too. So final payment amount will be announced 3 weeks before departure, which will be on July 5th. And then final payments will be due 1 week before we actually leave for the conference. So this QR code, if you scan it with your phone, I've shown it at youth group before, but you can scan it. I'll bring you right to the registration page. Trying to think if there's anything else. Are there any questions regarding the RYM trip? Yeah.
I'm sorry, this was for high school and middle school?
This is just for high school.
Just for high school, okay.
Yep. So they do have a middle school conference trip, but that's a completely separate week. I think it's down in Florida or something. And the hope is eventually we can, if we have enough mass going to these trips, like the high school, and there's desire from the middle school to start going to these conferences, we could start taking a middle school trip as well. So, yeah. All right. I will move on to unless there's any more questions. We'll move on to the mission trip now. There's a bigger QR code. So yeah, the Jacob's Old mission trip, this has been kind of tagged along on, this meeting was originally just for RYM, but we're also adding the mission trip because we finally have info regarding the summer mission trip. So this year we are going to do a mission trip to the Ridge Haven Kono camp. So I'll explain a little bit of what that is. So I've never been to Ridge Haven before, but so in our denomination PC, I'm talking about them a lot, but we have one full-fledged conference center that kind of belongs to our denomination, and that's located out in North Carolina. It is up in would it be the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina? I think so. It's up in the Smoky Mountains. It's a really cool camp. They have they have summer camps like Lake Long Bible Camp. They have opportunities for PCA churches to rent out their facility throughout the year, and other churches too. But it's actually owned by the PCA, which is a really neat thing for a denomination like us. We're still considered a small denomination, especially when considering the Southern Baptist Church and the ELCA or other Lutheran denominations that are quite a bit larger. So this is really cool that the PCA has something like this. And so the Ridge Haven camp has in a way wanted to expand, I guess. And so they kind of expanded to the Midwest. I don't really know what their plans are for the future, but they have decided to set up shop of a different sector of Ridge Haven called Kono camps. I'm not quite sure what the Brevard part is. This is their logo, but I do know that the Kono camps, they're down in Iowa. So it's pretty much just a large camp designed for the PCA to host presbytery meetings or have people do conference trips there and stuff like that. And so Ridge Haven Kono camps down in Iowa, they are at a point where they're kind of expanding like quite rapidly. So they're kind of dead for a while. This camp, it's like located in the middle of a bunch of cornfields in Iowa, but they've actually been having a lot more people come and sign up for their trips. And so with that, they're wanting to add more amenities and fix up the camp and all that kind of stuff. So this year, their organization is wanting groups to come in for short-term mission work. So I'll get to like more of what the mission work will be in just a moment. But yeah, Ridge Haven Kono Camp is in Walker, Iowa. It's really nice because it's 4.5 hours away. So as a mission trip for our church, it'll be really easy to like travel or to plan out travel for that. The dates for the trip is going to be June 23rd to 28th. I don't remember. Is that Monday through Friday, guys? I can't remember what. It ends on a Saturday, maybe. Bonnie's gonna look that up. Yeah, I'm not quite sure about that. Like
I think it's a Monday.
Yeah, Monday through Saturday.
Monday through Saturday. Cool deal. So yeah, like I said, direct connection with our denomination, the PCA. This is one of the coolest parts, but the cost will be under $200 a person. I think Dan announced it at our annual meeting this past Wednesday night. That like it's $165, and like we'll still be like planning like the travel costs and all that kind of stuff. So it'll most likely stick around like 180 or something like that. But I just had to throw a number up there and like let you guys know it will for sure be under $200 a person, which is like astounding that a camp can like host us for that amount of time, feed us for that amount, and still like pay their staff. So there will never be a mission trip or any conference trip that will be under that amount ever again. So that's pretty cool. I said most likely will be 11 years old and older. Dan confirmed that number this morning. So it's pretty much junior high and upwards. So I think we're still in conversations that if there's somebody under junior high, if parents were to accompany their child on the trip and that kind of stuff, that would be welcome as well, but still have to get final confirmation on that. So this isn't just a youth mission trip, this is Jacob's Well's mission trip. So we're hoping a large number of youth ministry students will show up, be part of this, but we're also hoping that all of Jacob's Well has their hands in this as well. So I think we're hoping to have over 50 people from Jacob's Well going to this conference. I want to say like Dan hopes to see like 70 people from Jacob's Well going to this trip, which like, man, that's a lot of people coming from one church. So it'd be really cool if that were to happen. I put 50 just to be a little more moderate. So signups, I think I have, yeah, signups will hopefully be active in the next week. We'll start seeing like, we'll be advertising it as a church. We'll be like sharing it as a church more often. It feels weird to say a church advertises, you know? But yeah, we'll start putting the word out more about it. The Ridge Haven Kono Camp, they're the ones that are actually going to be putting together like our schedule and the cost of the trip and stuff like that. And so they're going to do the sign-ups through their like own means, through their own website. So we're now kind of like waiting on them to see like what will be happening. Yeah, and then the service of this mission trip is most likely providing manual labor. So they have cabins, they have bunkhouses, they have all the typical stuff you would find on like a camp. And so they're a little bit older, like I mentioned, and so they're just trying to update things. So it'll most likely be a lot of painting, maybe constructing of some like shower stalls, or just like a lot of general stuff like that that's needed for a camp, or maybe just like updating wallpaper in the cabin. Who knows? But I think it's gonna be a really cool way to serve as a mission trip, to serve this camp that's connected with our denomination, that could really benefit from our service to them. And hopefully in the future we can like go to this camp and like be like participants in like a conference or something like that. So, and there will also be other things such as they built a pool recently. They have large group games and lessons and all that kind of stuff provided as well. So I'll have Greg and Bonnie Baranchek come on up and introduce themselves, even though you all might know them, maybe not. So for this mission trip, I'm going to be leading or like planning what the trip is going to look like and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think I'm actually going to go on the trip. I'm a little undecided yet, having a young family and already like doing the RYM trip. It might be a little too much for my family that summer or this summer. So I'll have Greg and Bonnie introduce themselves and share a little bit of like why they're wanting to step into the role of leading this mission trip.
So I'm Bonnie, this is my husband Greg. I actually do serve in the youth ministries this year, so with Oasis, so I know some of the kids. And we've been passionate about missions for a long time, like really probably since 2008. We've served on like a family trip together and several like short-term trips. We led student trips before, so having adults might be kind of fun. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, like Bonnie said, we're just really passionate about sharing Jesus with others, and God placed that on our heart a while ago, and so we're just excited for this opportunity. We just want to be a blessing to Jacob's Well in how we serve in those positions. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And if you weren't at the annual meeting, we also just took on the voluntary mission coordinator role together for the church. So hopefully we'll be more involved in the whole mission process throughout.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Are there any questions regarding the mission trip for this summer? It's a little general right now. I can't get into specifics, especially about like what we'll be doing exactly, but yeah, I want to get this information out and yeah. Cool. Well, once again, this QR code too, if you were to scan that, it would actually take you to the I was about to say RYM. It'll take you to Ridgehaven Kono Camp's website, and if you're interested in more about what they do, you can go check them out. So thank you guys for being here, and yeah, if you have questions, feel free to ask me offline.